So you guys know how I said yesterday that I was done covering Devil May Cry, that I wasn't going to do it anymore, it would be a one and done because I was so angry I have nothing left to say on the matter? That was a lie, an unintentional lie, a complete and utter accident, but a lie nonetheless because, yeah, I just ran across what might be the dumbest article in regards to the Netflix Devil May Cry anime, and it does need to be addressed. So welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Land Idol, and yeah, if you haven't seen it, because why would you have? It's comic book resources. Love it or hate it, Devil May Cry's Netflix adaptation just saved the franchise. Now, a while ago, I made the personal commitment to myself, and I've talked about it a little bit on the streams and whatnot, that I'm done covering Kotaku articles. You know, Kotaku, it's easy rage bait. Everyone knows they're a sham, everyone knows they're phonies, everybody knows they're fake. But they do definitely still get the clicks and the views, and it gets people all upsetty spaghetti. Like, let's be real, it's very easy to do that with Kotaku. Now, mind you, I never said that about CBR, Comic Book Resources. So we're going to go through this article before we do hit that subscribe button. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. And again, as somebody who is passionate about the Devil May Cry IP, this article was almost emotionally damaging. So, yeah, let's just get into it. By Brett Cardaro. After 7 years of development, Adi Shankar's highly anticipated Devil May Cry anime has finally arrived on Netflix. Now, guys, again, this is not an anime. This is not a real anime. It is anime in name only. It is a French production. And also, 7 years. Like, I remember when this was announced in, I believe, 2018. And I was excited for it because I thought it was going to be a live-action adaptation. I don't know why that would make me excited for it because, well, I was young, but the poster and the announcement was done with a live-action model. The point is, 7 years? Like, this has been in the works for 7 years, and this is the best you could give us? Like, I'm not going to go into my diatribe on how much I disliked, nay, loathed, hated, was bereft of any positive feelings whatsoever about this show. You can look at yesterday's video for that, but the point is, 7 years? This is the best you could do? Either way, I'm not going to dwell on that very long. This should be an exciting moment for the Devil May Cry fandom, but things haven't panned out the way for everybody. Okay, I'll give the article that. It's at least acknowledging there are fans that do have very valid grievances, real fans of the franchise, like your boy here. Many longtime fans have left Netflix's DMC adaptation with a sour taste in their mouth due to how different the characters feel from the ones in the games, the overt political themes, or the divergence from the stories in the games they know and love. While those criticisms are mostly warranted, whoa, they're mostly warranted? Why would your boy say that this is a terrible article when so far it seems to be agreeing with me ideologically, personally, as a fan? Don't get too comfortable. It really doesn't get much better than this first, almost olive branch extending paragraph. There's at least one thing all fans, hi, that's me, also that's you watching, should be celebrating about the new DMC series release. The Devil May Cry franchise has seen plenty of ups and downs as a game series throughout the years. Has it, though? Like, look, Devil May Cry came out in, 2002, and was an instant, more or less, success for Capcom? I mean, don't get me wrong, Devil May Cry 2 sucks. But 3, 4, 5, even the Ninja series reboot has gone on to, while it was very much hated at the time, get a certain level of acclaim as, you know what? We hate what they did with the character of Dante, but as a game in its own right and as a story, it's not bad. Like, even Ninja Theory's DMC has grown to be oddly loved as the red-headed stepchild that came into its own, and you realize you may not have been kept in the football team, but you got a good career and a beautiful wife with kids that you love and that love you, and we respect that. Like, that's kind of what happened with DMC. So what are the ups and downs? I'm curious, because it's only all been ups, and Capcom with their infinite lack of wisdom of where to take the series has kept it from truly blossoming into something along the lines of a Monster Hunter or a Resident Evil or even a Street Fighter. So yes, we'll just assume this is correct, but for the sake of the article, but it's not. With planned reboots like 2013's DMC Devil May Cry to the eventual return of the canonical series of 2019's Devil May Cry 5, which went on to be the most successful entry yet. By the way, now I could be wrong, and you can feel free to fact check me in the comments, but that DMC reboot that I was referring to, if I recall, didn't sell poorly. Fans just didn't like it because it did a lot of what we complain about nowadays. Disrespected the story and the spirit and the characters, much in the same way that this, or at least at the time we thought, much in the same way that this anime adaptation did. It turns out, in hindsight, it didn't, and we were wrong, or at least we were not entirely correct. But the fact of the matter is, even that, to my knowledge, was a financial success. Then, like they say, 2019's Devil May Cry 5 is the biggest success it's ever had as a series. What do you mean it's been through ups and downs? Since 2019, though, there's been uncertainty around a sequel, with nothing having been announced even 6 years later. To me, this is that TikTok brain. This is that that just need for instant gratification. Yeah, nothing's been announced, but we know it's being worked on. We know from the way Devil May Cry 5 ended, there is plans for a Devil May Cry 6. They always probably have been, just based on the natural progression of storytelling. I mean, Resident Evil 8 was how long ago at this point? 4 years, maybe? Give or take? 3 if I'm being generous? We technically have not had a confirmed announcement for Resident Evil 9. How long was the gap between Street Fighter 5 and 6, or 4 and 5, or shit, Dragon's Dogma? That was 2011 if I recall, and we didn't get Dragon Dogma 2 until last year. Just because there's a long gap between announcements, that doesn't mean that A, the game isn't in development, and B, that the series is going through a lull, or that Capcom doesn't believe in it. I actually don't understand. Granted, this is comic book resources, so you could try and say, well, their specialty isn't video games, but no. Video games are the modern zeitgeist. It's the largest entertainment industry in the world. The people at CBR who make their job to be about knowing pop culture clearly know that this is the case. So when you say there's not been an announcement in 6 years, like, I'm a Fallout fan. When did Fallout 4 come out? Yes, we as fans know there's going to be a Fallout 5. In fact, I did a video on it. Check it out. They've not technically announced it. Fallout 5 has never been officially announced. So, how long did it take between Skyrim and the announcement of even the announcement of Elder Scrolls 6 was how many years ago, and we've gotten no new information on it? They're trying to act like because nothing has been announced in the last few years, Devil May Cry is a failing brand. That is bananas. That's insane. However, the Netflix anime could finally be the thing that turns that all around for the Devil May Cry gaming franchise, turning the game series into the highest of properties for Capcom. It's gonna look. I love DMC. I do. One of my favorites of all time. But it has a lot of work to do when it comes to the highest, the most acclaim from Capcom when compared to Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, and very obviously Street Fighter. You might even argue Mega Man is more famous than Devil May Cry, though I would disagree. The point is, no matter what the success in terms of viewership, definitely not accolades of fan enjoyment, this anime has, yeah, no, it's not going to become a top priority for Capcom. They've got other shit to do. And there's already an indication it's doing just that. What is the indication? Well, they're going to say that the Steam sales are an indication. They're basically going to claim Devil May Cry is back on Steam's bestseller list following the Netflix series release. Yeah? And? I mean, this was obvious. This was obvious this was going to happen. Look, Capcom may have some issues, but I would think that they've got a legal team or a team of analysts, people who understand the market, who knew this was going to happen. Why? Well, because we saw this happen for every single other video game adaptation that's ever been done they get a boost in sales and playership when these adaptations come about. Not even from Netflix. Amazon as well. Fallout. Fallout got a major boost in playership after the Fallout series. Like, Capcom knew this was coming. Why are you going to try and treat this like, oh, when Capcom sees these numbers, they're going to rethink and start to prioritize Devil May Cry 6. For all you know, Devil May Cry 6 has been in production for the last 3 years, but they want to make sure it gets done right. I mean, the RE engine, the Reach for the Moon engine, isn't going anywhere. That's still their flagship engine. That's what Devil May Cry 5 was done in. I'm sure the game has been being worked on, but with the various, upgrades and potential moves to different consoles and the way things are handled, yeah, maybe there's a bit of a development snag or hell, or maybe they're just not ready to announce it or release it. Maybe they're working on other games they knew would be successful, like Monster Hunter, for example, or again, Street Fighter 6, which was pretty recent in the grand scheme of gaming. Like, yes, it's the anime series is actually probably, in my opinion, not going to impact what would be Devil May Cry 6. In the days following the Devil May Cry's anime release, engagement for the game series shot up several times what it was prior. Well, yeah, like you said, we haven't had a game since 2019, and these are single-player games. Whenever a company releases a single-player game, they probably know the bulk of their sales and player base are going to be within those first few weeks, maybe months, and that's that. I mean, again, it's not like Capcom sunk the level of money into Devil May Cry they would for something that's mass online multiplayer with longevity to it, like Monster Hunter. This really isn't anything special. Just 2 days after the anime came out, Devil May Cry 5's popularity on Steam increased astronomically, with even passing popular new releases like Assassin's Creed Shadows and Marvel Rivals. Now, I'll give you Marvel Rivals, but let's be real. Passing Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game that barely broke, 66,000, maybe 86,000 concurrent on Steam? You're treating that as some major milestone? It actually says more about how bad Assassin's Creed Shadows did that 5-6 years later, Devil May Cry 5 is surpassing it on the platform's bestseller list. While that popularity slightly waned after the initial excitement wore off, it's still performing well. At the time of writing, Devil May Cry 5 sits just below the top 20 on Steam over even big recent releases like Baldur's Gate 3, Black Ops 6, and the first Berserker Kazan. This huge popularity increase for Devil May Cry franchise cannot be understated. Now, I agree that it can't be understated. Because of this anime, it might be getting fans it didn't initially have, but I don't think so. Now, obviously, this is anecdotal, but the vast majority of folk that I've spoke to that have gone back and started replaying the old DMC games because of this anime and their reinvigorated interest in the IP were already fans, or at least already had played the games before, whether it be on PS2, PS3, PS4, whatever it may be. Yeah, they're not really bringing in anyone new, or if the folk that are bringing in are new, it's not enough new fans to justify DMC 6. Probably because DMC 6 was already being in the works to begin with. It is still one of Capcom's flagship franchises. If you had to ask me the top 5 flagship Capcom franchises, DMC is there. Resident Evil is number 1. Sales-wise, it is number 1. I've heard recently Monster Hunter may have overtaken it, but point is, whether it be 1 or 2, you got Monster Hunter and Resident Evil. The solid number 3 spot is easily Street Fighter. And then you got Mega Man and Devil May Cry. Those are the big 5 from Capcom. So it was gonna happen regardless. It doesn't matter how many sales of older games are hitting on Steam because they're on sale due to this Netflix show. You're probably not raking in new fans, or at least not enough new fans to justify being like, oh, well, now is the time to make Devil May Cry 6. In terms of numbers, engagement in the game series increased 40 times what it was prior to Netflix anime release. Now, to be fair, that's good. There are people going back and playing these games, but the show is also awful. Watch my video from yesterday. The show is terrible. I literally did a stream on Sunday, playing Devil May Cry 4 as a palate cleanser to get just a bad taste of the anime out of my mouth. That was originally a Resident Evil 3 stream. I was playing Resident Evil 3, and 30 minutes in, while I was bitching about the show, me and the chat decided, you know what, fuck it. If I'm going to be bitching about Devil May Cry, Let's play Devil May Cry. So, like, how many of all those uptick in players are people who, frankly, loathe the show because it's objectively bad and want to recapture the memories of when the series was good? So, yeah, any players you bring in that thought the series was good are going to be very upsetty spaghetti if Devil May Cry 6 rolls around and it's not the political fucking girl boss fest that the show was. No matter how fans feel about the adaptation and its faithfulness to the source material, the increased attention to Devil May Cry IP is getting because it's a big deal. Not only are longtime fans returning to the games after watching the anime, false. Well, okay, so I did return to Devil May Cry 4 after watching the anime, but to be fair, I had started a new game on Devil May Cry 4 about 4 months ago, and I just put it off to play other games, so I was all ready when you start. We go out to my stream. When you start it, I'm on level 5 or 6 when we start the stream, because I'm just loading up my last save file from like 5 months ago. I've been working on platinuming Devil May Cry 5 on Steam for like the last 6 months or something. It had nothing to do with the anime, so now granted, I might be the outlier, but in general, there are always going to be the players that are returning to the games because they're good games, or because the show, even if it's bad, made them miss what was good about the games. A whole wave of brand new potential DMC fans are checking the game series out for the first time. Netflix Devil May Cry anime brought this beloved franchise back to the forefront in a way it hasn't been for years. What do you mean it hasn't been for years? You already mentioned Devil May Cry 5 is the highest selling game in this series, and it's the most recent. Game development takes a long time, especially if you've got other massive IPs that you're working on. And that's a hugely positive outcome, regardless of how anyone feels about the anime itself. And I disagree with this. It's not a hugely positive outcome, because let's posit the idea that maybe there are these new fans that want to get into Devil May Cry because of the anime. The games are vastly different. There is nearly nothing in common between the anime and the games, aside from some names and, of course, the title itself. It's devoid. The show is devoid of anything that is actually Devil May Cry. So even if you did bring in these new fans, they're not going to like the direction of the games, because it's not like the show that they thought was Devil May Cry that turns out it's nothing like it. Or, even worse, Capcom looks at the success of the series and they start making the games in the vein of that. They start making them political. They start changing the characters that we've known and loved for God knows how many years, or even decades at this point, because I believe the first one came out in, 2002? So 2 decades, 2.1 decades old, or whatever it may be. Like, this is the problem. If we can accept CBR's analysis that, the success of DMC means that the DMC anime means the DMC 6 game is on the horizon, which I reject that, because no, the game has probably been in development for a while, just hasn't been announced yet. That's pretty common practice in gaming. Or Capcom didn't have plans for a DMC 6. They look at the success of the show and think, oh, now we definitely need to make one. And we need to make one more like the show, because that's what everyone's ranting and raving about, when the show was bad. And your core fan base, the vast, vast majority of your core fan base, hated the show. I mean, either CBR is wrong and we're in for a great Devil May Cry game that was going to be done regardless, or CBR is right, and that's a far more worrying situation, because that means that Capcom is going to deliver a game that honestly may be worse than Devil May Cry 2. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Both the Word. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. Not always about the video game industry, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon. And become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles I go over on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos I react to on the Friday night live streams, and of course, get involved with over 180 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity, but only one kind of diversity of thought. If that's interesting to you, join the Discord, hit subscribe, and until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.